The movie begins with Professor Hyder sitting in his car, staring at a picture of 3 dogs connected in a line. While he's focused on the image, a truck stops nearby, and its driver heads into the forest to relieve himself. Professor Hyder follows him and points a gun at him. The scene shifts, and we meet 2 young women, Jenny and Lindsay, who are traveling in Germany. They plan to attend a party and, unfamiliar with the area, Lindsay navigates using her phone, renting a car. They drive through a dense forest at night, but soon lose their way. To make matters worse, their car's tire gets punctured. Lindsay attempts to call for roadside assistance, but there's no signal in the remote forest, leaving them stranded. They decide to stay in the car and hope someone passes by to help. After some time, a car approaches, and they flag it down. However, the man inside behaves strangely, making unsettling gestures that frighten them. Panicked, they lock their car doors, and the man eventually drives away. Desperate, the 2 girls leave the car to search for help. Walking through the forest, they spot a distant light coming from a house. As rain begins to pour, they rush toward the illuminated home, soaking wet by the time they arrive. They knock on the door, and Professor Hyder answers. The girls explain their situation, and the professor invites them inside. Once inside, the girls notice the strange and unsettling paintings on the walls, which make them feel uneasy. Professor Hyder asks if they are tourists, to which they reply that they are from New York and visiting Germany. They request his help in calling for car repairs, but the professor avoids directly answering. Instead, he asks if they are related, and the girls clarify that they are just friends. The professor heads to the kitchen, claiming he will call for assistance. While there, he prepares glasses of water for the girls, secretly mixing in a sedative. Lindsay drinks hers without suspicion, but Jenny accidentally spills her glass. The professor becomes visibly irritated and goes to the basement to bring a towel to clean up the mess. However, in the basement, he prepares a syringe, revealing his sinister intentions. Meanwhile, Lindsay begins to feel drowsy as the drugs take effect. Jenny, worried, asks the professor to call for help again, but he refuses and injects a sedative directly into her neck, rendering her unconscious as well. When both girls regain consciousness, they find themselves tied up in a strange lab. Alongside them is the truck driver from earlier, also bound and terrified. Professor Hyder enters and coldly informs the truck driver that he is not a match, making him useless for the professor's twisted plan. Without hesitation, the professor injects a lethal poison into the truck driver, killing him instantly. He then buries the body in his garden. Shortly after, the professor drags another unconscious man into the lab and straps him to a bed beside the girls. Wearing a medical coat, he begins to explain his horrifying plan. Introducing himself as Professor Hyder, he reveals that he was once a surgeon who specialized in separating conjoined twins. However, his obsession has taken a dark turn. He now desires to surgically join living beings. He proudly shares how he successfully connected 3 dogs into a single organism, and now intends to perform the same grotesque experiment on humans. The professor explains his chilling procedure. He will first sever the ligaments in their knees to prevent them from standing. Next, he will surgically attach Subject B's mouth to Subject A's back, and Subject C's mouth to Subject B's back. The professor describes removing skin and jaws to connect them more effectively, ensuring they function as a single, human centipede. He explains the horrifying digestive process. Subject A will eat food, which will pass through Subject B as waste, and finally into Subject C. This disturbing cycle excites the professor as he declares this will be his first attempt on humans. The professor starts preparing for surgery by sedating the new man, and then moves to inject Jenny. Meanwhile, Lindsay uses her teeth to untie her ropes and frees herself. Panicking, she runs out of the lab and locks herself in a nearby room. However, the professor smashes through the window and forces his way inside, leaving Lindsay no choice but to flee again. As she runs through the house, she stumbles and falls into a pool outside. The professor soon arrives and starts covering the pool to trap her. But just as he closes in, the lights suddenly go out. Seizing the opportunity, Lindsay manages to climb out of the pool and escapes into the darkness. Lindsay starts running and manages to find the doctor's lab, where she frees Jenny, who has fainted from the injection. Struggling, she drags Jenny out, but the doctor appears and injects Lindsay from behind, rendering her unconscious. He carries both of them back to the lab and proceeds with his gruesome surgery. The doctor successfully completes the operation, connecting the man in front, Lindsay in the middle, and Jenny at the end. After a few days, the human centipede has not recovered fully, but the doctor forces them to stand despite their agonizing pain. He takes pictures and shows them their reflection in a mirror, causing them to break down in tears. Treating them like animals, he locks them in a cage and feeds them like pets. One day, while on the ground outside, the man feels the need to relieve himself. His feces are passed into Lindsay's. Doctor observes them closely and discovers that the man is healthy. And suddenly there's a knock on the door. It's the police. They've come to investigate the disappearance of Lindsay and Jenny, as their car was found abandoned near the doctor's house. The doctor welcomes them and claims he knows nothing, explaining that he's too busy with work to notice anything. While pretending to be cooperative, he goes to the kitchen and laces their drinks with drugs. The officers grow suspicious and mention hearing reports of screams from his house. The doctor becomes defensive and urges them to drink the water, but one officer angrily throws the glass aside. The doctor, realizing he's in trouble, excuses himself and goes to the basement to retrieve his anesthesia syringe. However, the officers notice his odd behavior and catch him off guard. The doctor argues that they can't accuse him without a warrant. The officers leave to get one, but the doctor rushes back to his lab only to find the human centipede attempting an escape. The man, filled with rage, attacks the doctor with a knife, rendering him unconscious. The three crawl painfully toward the stairs and make it to the upper floor. The doctor regains consciousness and begins chasing them. In desperation, the man uses broken glass from a window to slit his own throat, sacrificing himself to escape the torment. The doctor catches up just as the police return. Unable to see anyone else, the officers enter the house to search. One of them eventually finds the human centipede, but hearing gunshots, he rushes to find his partner and discovers him dead. Before he can act, the doctor shoots at the remaining officer, but the officer fires back, killing the doctor. In the end, everyone in the house dies except the human centipede. The victims are left alone in their horrific state.